Millennials don't keep a job for more than 2 years, while there are more jobs available than people to fill them, because quitters are not desperate. Hello and welcome to the Fen Den. I'm your host, Sean Allen Fenn, and my goal is to win your hearts and to change your minds. 43% of millennials expect to leave their job within 2 years, and the Department of Labor, according to the Department of Labor, 2.4%, people of any age, 2.4% are quitting their jobs, which is the highest level in more than 16 years of people quitting their jobs, where there's a surplus of jobs and there are less people who want or probably even need those jobs. It's not that they don't need money. It's not that they don't need income. It's that people are waking up to the realization of what a meaningful life entails. And I think what's happening, for the reason why it's mostly millennials that are willing to or expecting to not stay at a job for more than 2 years. See, people are starting to notice a shift. What we're doing is we're looking at our parents and we're looking at what happened to them. Look, guys, if you are not aware of this, times have totally shifted. Times have changed. The pendulum is swinging the other way, because what used to work for our parents doesn't work for us. Look at Social Security. How many people of previous generations, of baby boomer generations, were promised more than what they're getting? The average monthly amount that people living on Social Security receive, the average monthly benefit is $1,294, according to the Social Security Administration. These are retired people who, if they were smart, they invested their money and are not relying on their Social Security benefits. But I don't want to imagine or fathom how many people worked their whole life, 20, 30 years, and they depend on Social Security now because they retired, and that's what they live on. I just talked to someone just this week, and the first way he described himself was poor. He just lives off Social Security. And I talked to him because a friend introduced us because he is interested in art. He wanted to talk about Kandinsky, and he wanted to talk about various spiritual and art-related topics. Well, when I just asked him a little bit about himself, he doesn't have any money to collect art. He's barely getting by. And that's no way to live when you just are struggling because you are past employment age. You are retired. Someone who quit, but quit the wrong thing. See, if you quit something, it means you're not addicted to it anymore. And maybe it means that you were addicted to it at one point. And we get addicted to things that are not good for us. People quit smoking. People quit drugs, quit drinking. How often do they quit other things that are more subtle, that are not good for us? For instance, tying our identity to our job and putting our reliance on a quote-unquote job, when what we really should be focusing on is our purpose and our destiny. And usually, not always, but usually focusing on the job is focusing on the wrong thing. Someone who is desperate is someone who has ran out of options. So that means that they're going to be needy, and the first thing that they take is going to just be for survival. But that's where they made their first mistake, is thinking that they ran out of options. We have to step outside of ourselves if we think we ran out of options, because there is always another way. People tend to think binary, this or that. You know who thinks like this or that, binary? Like it's you either have a job or you don't. Those are people who live in scarcity. People who think that you can't live unless you live the way that I think you should live, because that's what I know, and because that's what I know, and because that's what I was told, and because that's how my parents did it, that's how I think you should do it. You know what I'm saying? But look at your parents, though. Look at your parents. Look at your baby boomer parents. The ones who have worked their whole life. And what do they have to show for it? Like, maybe they have like a modest kind of retirement, and maybe they get some Social Security benefits. But what have they been doing this whole time? What have you been doing with your whole life? You've just been working a job, but what have you been doing, though? What have you been doing to change yourself? Because if you want to change the world, you have to change yourself first. But people who just look to get a job, they don't think like that. They don't think about changing the world. They don't think about solving a major problem or leaving the world better than they found it. They think out of desperation. I just have to have a job so I have my paycheck so I can go on vacation, because that's my life. But what are you doing, though? Because you're being selfish, and you're just thinking like, oh, as long as I have a job and I have my vacation, I'm okay. Everything is stable. Everything is fine. But that's a total illusion. You think it's stable right now because you have a job, and you think that gives you a sense of security, and in your mind that gives you a sense of superiority when you don't. When you see only your short end of the stick, and you think you have the long end of the stick, but really it's the short end of the stick. Why? Because you're not living up to your purpose. If you're just interested in having a job, well, unless you're someone like Einstein worked at a job in the mailroom while at night he's writing the theory of general relativity. But what do most people do when they come home from their job? They watch TV. They turn on the TV. And that's what they do. And then they expect to live off Social Security when they retire. Or they expect, because they have a 401k and their employer matches them, they think that's going to get them some sort of wealth, when in fact you're just giving your money away to Wall Street. No one ever gets rich off their 401k. And maybe you don't want to get rich with money. Maybe that's not your thing. And I know that money doesn't make you happy, and I never said it did. No one, when people say money doesn't make you happy, it's usually a justification for not having it. And they're usually trying to justify the reason why they don't have it, and they're usually trying to quantify on some other unquantifiable, unmeasurable factor, like emotion. Because no one ever said that money was supposed to make you happy. But I'll tell you, money doesn't like make you sad either. And if it does, you're sad because you don't have it. But I get it that money is not the end goal. It's just like a job is not the end goal. So if you're focusing on the wrong thing, like if you're focusing on trying to make money for the sake of making money, or you're trying to focus on just having a job for the sake of having a job, it's essentially you're kind of using the same mode of operation, the same modus operandi, where You're probably trading your hours for dollars, which is the first mistake, which is the first reason why you are defaulting to talking about happiness and when someone brings it up, instead of realizing that happiness is not the issue here, and sadness is not the issue here, emotion is not the issue here. It is, what the issue is when you are stumbling over a pebble and not playing the long game. See, the long game is knowing what your purpose is and knowing what is in line with that purpose and what is not in line with that purpose. And desperation creeps in when you forget who you are and you forget your purpose. And you will stumble over a pebble when you are looking at the problem instead of the solution, where you're thinking binary, like this or that, and you get tricked into the line that you've been told. You get tricked into you start believing the advertising. You start believing the marketing. You start believing that you have to live like this because you are comparing yourself to someone else. In other words, you start comparing yourself to the people around you, and that becomes your point of reference. So if you grew up and your parents always were struggling and they told you that you have to work 9 to 5 and that you have to have a house and a mortgage, they bought into the American dream advertising that was completely made up by people who follow the money, by people who had it in their best interest to get you in debt. Who are those people? The banking system. The banks told people that they should have a house, and the American dream was to have a white picket fence and to have a mortgage, and you have to have this mortgage, and you have to go to the universities and you have to get it into student loan debt. And then you have to hope you can get a job so you can be a good employee and you can be a cog in the wheel. And it's not your fault if you believe that, because that is the system of this world. That is the way the world works, but it is only on a surface level. And people are waking up and quitting the surface level. How can I say this so you guys understand? I don't know if you guys understand me. The surface level of things is what people usually see when they start looking at their circumstances and they start doubting. As soon as you start doubting, you are experiencing fear, and fear is torment. And when you start looking at the world through fear and torment, you start looking at, oh my God, I have to have a job, or oh my God, how am I going to pay the mortgage, or oh my God, how am I going to get out of the student loan debt? Because you start thinking in scarcity and fear because you're thinking only on the surface level, when there are more and more people who are waking up, and you can call them millennials, which is another story, because I don't know why there are so many articles that want to pick on millennials. You know what I'm talking about, right? When you see all of these messages and headlines about talking about millennials do this, millennials want that. The reason why they're doing that is it's just catching your attention, because it's categorizing people, it's categorizing a generation, categorizing an age group. Now, the millennials I know are more enlightened than people who have the baggage of the past, because we're starting to realize that what the baby boomers were we're told is not valid anymore. You can't rely on a job for your sense of security. There's no such thing as job security. As much as you think there is not. And I don't care what it looks like in the moment, at the time when you're looking at it, when you see the bills coming in and you see that you have not enough money to pay them because you've been trading your hours for dollars, and hopefully you're at a level that's secure for the time being, but don't get stuck in this mindset that is convinced of what the banking system and the advertising has told you and told your parents for generations, that the only way to live is this way, and there's no other way. That's being dogmatic. And you're no different than religious fanatics when you do that. A religious fanatic is willing to blow themselves up. They have an explosive personality sometimes when they think they're right and everyone else is wrong. And someone gets locked into that. Like, if you encounter fanatic people that are really quick to tell someone they're going to hell, which their intention is, I don't know what their intention is when they do that, if it's good or bad, but they're thinking in terms of like finite, short term. They're not thinking in terms of long term. You don't know what's going to happen to the person that you're talking to. You don't know what's going to happen to them tomorrow and the next day and 10, 5, 15, 20 years from now. They might be a totally different person, and you don't know what's going to happen to you 5, 10, 15, 20 years. You're only seeing right now. And right now is already the past. Every time you think about right now, it's already past. Think about right now, it's past. Now, past. Think about right now, it's past, because the only thing that matters is what's coming, is what your future is, what your destiny is. And this is what I'm trying to tell you guys when I'm talking about, I'm not putting down having a job. I know people will take it like the way, I know people will misinterpret what I'm saying and think, oh, well, he thinks like you shouldn't have a job. I'm totally not saying that. I'm thinking, look at what your priorities are, though. Look at what you're doing in your life, in your long game. Like, what are you doing, and how are you being biased, and where are your blind spots, where you're assuming something about someone and you're feeling a sense of superiority because in your own opinion you have this figured out because you're doing what you were told and it's working for you. Whatever you were told, that's working for you because you do what you're told because you're an employee. It's that employee mindset of just doing what you're told because that's what you were told to do. Now, I'm not saying that is bad either, because there is a time and place to serve someone and to be of service and to do something for someone, and that is exactly what we are supposed to do. Now, if it sounds like there's a contradiction in what I'm saying, there is not. Because what I'm saying is when you have your mind on a higher purpose, when you know your destiny and you see it and you can feel it and you can sense what's coming and you know that it is good and right and you are on your path of success and it is defined in a way that you that is personal to you, you understand when other people don't agree and they don't see it that way, because they're seeing from their perspective with their limited information, because we never have all the information, which is why we have to sort of cut corners with our minds. And that's why we jump to conclusions. That's why we assume, because it saves us time and energy. But the reason why there is not a contradiction in I'm saying it's good to have a job, it's bad to have a job. I'm not saying it's bad to have a job. I'm saying don't stumble over the pebble that is tripping you up and tricking you into thinking that because you have this imaginary like sense of stability, because you're defining yourself by whatever your job is, as soon as that's taken away, you could be devastated. If you tether your identity too closely, it's an identity trap. I've talked about this before. We get fixated on these ways of life and ways of being that are being informed by misinformation. We're believing the ads, we're believing the marketing, we're believing what the system wants us to do. The system of the negative aspects of capitalism. I'll just put it that way. In other words, you can sense this sort of vileness in. That's why sales people get a bad rap. That's why people don't want to hear selling. They don't want to like use the word salesman to define their profession. They'll use other words like associate, because it has a bad connotation. Why? Because there are people unconsciously sense the negativity that has happened to them before from commerce. How can I say this so you guys understand? I think some of you understand me. I don't know. I know some of you don't, but I know some of you do. There is this negativity and this subtle kind of not rightness in the system that we're used to, that tells you that you have to have a job and you have to keep making all this money because inflation is going up, and you have to pay the rent, and you have to get by, and you have to consume and buy this and buy that product, and you have to have fancy cars, and you have to have diamond rings, and you have to have Christian Louboutin shoes. I know it's nice to have all those things, and I am a believer in having nice things around you, because I believe that you should not settle for second best. There's no reason why you should have a second-rate life and second-rate belongings, and there's no reason why you shouldn't have. Actually, there's no reason why you shouldn't have the job that you want, as long as it is in line with your purpose and it is what you want, and you don't assume that everyone wants what you want. Let's just put it that way. Because who are you to decide how it should be for everyone else? Who made you the judge? Who made you the king of the universe? Who left you in charge? Because last I checked, you were not in charge of another person's life. You were in charge of your own life. And the only way that you can change the world is by changing yourself first. Which might cause you to wake up one day and realize, you know what? I've been working at this dead-end job for way too long, and I don't know why I'm doing it. I don't know why. Why do I want to do this job? Because I know I could be doing something else with my time, which I can never buy back, by the way. I can sell my time for $15, $20, $30, $40 an hour. I can sell my time for that. And most people do sell their time. Well, rich people buy time, but you can never buy time back of your own that you already expended, that you already left, and you already sold out. I think that's the problem that I have, is people sell out. If you're willing to sell out who you are for a paycheck that gives you $15, $20, $25, $30, $40 an hour, that's how much your hour is worth? Really? Your time is only worth $40 an hour. Really? Really? That's all you're worth? I have a problem with that. You are worth more than that. I am worth more than that. The reason why we've been doing this, the reason why people have been trading their time for money, selling their hours for $20, $30, $40. In New York, the minimum is like $15. So in New York, you've been selling your hours for $15 an hour. The reason you're doing it, what is the reason that you're doing that? Is it because you desperately need that money? Or is it because you're serving a higher purpose? Maybe you're willing to sell your hour for $15 if it serves a higher purpose that you can see and that you know, and that you are affecting someone's life. And that is why you're doing it. Because you are changing your life. You have changed you so that you can change the world. Now, if you're willing to sell your hour for $15, it better be for the reason that you are serving a higher purpose, and you are there in that place serving in that way because there is someone there who needs you. There is someone there who you can affect and you can help in a way that no one else can. And that is why you're doing it. It's not because you need the money. It's not because you sold out. It's not because you sold your sold your hours for dollars. Just because out of desperation. The reason you take a job better be, if you are a person who is worth a damn, the reason you take that job better be for your higher purpose, or it's not worth it. And people are waking up, and it's the quote-unquote millennials that the press likes to talk about that are the first to do it. But like I said, like the millennials that I know are some of the greatest minds. They are doing things that previous generations just couldn't even, that was not even possible for previous generations to even think that way. But they don't have the same hang-ups that our parents did. Millennials don't have the hang-ups of baby boomers. And baby boomers didn't have the hang-ups of the generation before them. And the same thing will happen. Like, we're still going to cause as many problems as that we can solve. Because the baby boomers messed up a lot of things, messed up the environment, and they're not to blame because the generation before them messed up the environment, but they also did a lot of good things. And it's easy to look at the bad and not look at the good, but there's almost always more good than bad. And the reason why there's a surplus of jobs is because those jobs suck. It's like why is no one buying my thing? Like, it must suck. That's what employers must be saying right now. Employers must be saying, you know what? My job must suck because no one wants it. So you better adapt to the market. Like, if you're a business owner, or if you're a company, then and you're having a problem hiring good people, maybe you should look at your company and see, well, what's wrong? Because there's something wrong, or else people would want to work for you. But people are waking up and realizing that they don't need you because they don't need a mortgage anymore, because they have realized that it's all been a ploy to get people in debt. And people now are waking up and saying, you know what, I don't want that kind of bad debt. People are getting smarter. I don't want that stupid mortgage. I don't need a house. I don't need to I don't need that kind of debt, and I don't need to be bound to a house that the bank owns. I don't even own it. It's the banks. They could repossess it. And I don't need to work at a job that I give them my hours. I trade my hours for dollars that they pay me. So they're giving me a paycheck that because I have sold out, because I'm worth more, but because I'm trading what my worth. I'm trading that for the sense of security and the stability. So you're just willing to sell out. And these jobs are attracting people. The jobs that have people working for them, how many of them are their employees are this kind of people that are willing to sell out their beliefs and sell out their destiny? That's why you have that. That's why you have employees sometimes, is because you have employees that are willing to sell out their destiny and trade it off for this false sense of security, this false sense of job security. And they believe that because you matched their 401k, they think, oh, okay, well, that must be a good thing. Like, oh, okay. You know, not everyone's like that, of course. There are plenty of good jobs and great people, but you have to kind of step back and look at, say, why is there a surplus of employers that they don't have enough employees? Maybe it's because those employees have woken up and they have started their own business, and they either freelance, they started their own business, they're doing what they love. And they finally woke up and said, you know, I don't need that 9-to-5 bullcrap. I don't need it, because that was stupid of me to sell out my time for dollars. That was stupid of me to trade my hours that I can never get back. I traded my hour for that I can never get back. It's gone. I traded it for $20. That's it. And that $20, like, that gets spent in 2 seconds. It's not worth it. It's worth it when you know your purpose and you know your destiny, and you work toward your destiny, and you serve people with a heart that if you do trade your hours for dollars, if you do trade your time for money, it is for the purpose of service. And it's not because you're a sellout. It is because you know something that they don't, and you are doing something in line with your purpose. Most people don't even know what their purpose is. They don't even think about it. They just they'll just apply for jobs everywhere, and they'll just take the first thing that they get. And it's fine if, like, you don't want to really do anything with your life, but just to have that sense of job security. But a lot of people are waking up that there is a greater thing, there is a bigger thing, like the system of this world that is manifested as the banking system. We realize that there is something corrupt in that. I kind of can't put my finger on it, but that's why people get this uncomfortable feeling when someone's trying to sell them something. You know what I'm talking about, right? Because you get this icky feeling. That icky feeling, what is that? When you get that icky feeling, what is that icky feeling? What is that telling you? That's telling you something in your subconscious. You're like, wait a minute, something's not right. Listen to that feeling. Because usually something isn't right. If you feel any sort of ickiness, what is that reflex that you're feeling? Like, if it's this kind of icky feeling, listen to it and don't be fooled by your peers who are no better than you, who are not making any more money than you are anyway. I mean, if you're taking advice from your peers, those are people that are on your level and they haven't risen above your level. So how good is that information that you're getting from them? If employers have more jobs available than they have people to fill them, so they lower their standards as far as who they will hire because they couldn't get the person they want, so they have to lower their standards a little bit. What does that tell you about that job if they're willing to lower their standards in any way? Either their standards are not relevant anymore, or they compromise, and they're an organization that is willing to compromise and they sell out. So what do you have? You have sellouts working for sellouts. I will not sell out to anyone, and I think if you're listening to this podcast and you feel the same way, click like, click subscribe. If you totally disagree with me and you think I'm an idiot and you think I'm a fool, tell everyone, because at least you're saying my name.